What is the one thing that we all need when it comes to getting through struggles and trials in our lives? Let's talk about it. Well, hey everyone, welcome to Spectrum, where we seek to study the Bible and embrace creativity. My name is Cody, and today we're going to be focusing in the book of James, which is in the New Testament of the Bible, and we're going to be reading verses 2 through 4 in the first chapter. And in this passage, it talks about that one thing, endurance. So with that, let me read our passage.
Count it all joy, brothers, when you meet trials of various kinds, for you know that the testing of your faith produces steadfastness or endurance. And let steadfastness or endurance have its full effect, that you may be perfect and complete, lacking in nothing.
Well, all right, that's our passage. Let's draw.
So here we go. I'm going to be using various different sizes of ink pens that you can get at any art store or online. These pens are good for illustrating, calligraphy, drawing, and I think they're a lot of fun. And this is the type of art that I find myself doing most, especially because it's quick and easy to get set up and there's virtually no mess. Well, I don't know about you, but when I read this passage, I immediately thought of a tree. A tree starts as a small seed, but then grows, but really isn't sturdy for a long time. And I think of these trials that are mentioned in the passage, that they could be compared to a strong wind or a powerful thunderstorm for a tree. And it takes a long time for a tree to get strong roots, but of course, once that tree has strong roots, it can withstand a lot of stress. So that's what I'm going to draw today. And I know that I could try and go for realism, which if you want to do that, go for it. But I really like trying to do something a little different and make it more fun. So my trees are going to be a little bit on the cartoony side today. Well, this passage, the writer, James, he calls Christians to be joyful even when we are in the middle of trials and to count it all joy that we're going through those trials. But what trials are we going through? What trials is he referring to even? I think this could be referring to just general trials in life, but it could also be more specific trials like persecution because of your faith, or trials that could even be dealing with sickness. And the reason we should count it all joy is that it is producing endurance or steadfastness in us. See, when you plant a tree, it starts out small, but over time you get a mature, sometimes huge tree. But the thing about it is, time is needed. And the same thing with us. We can't get endurance overnight. We can't go to sleep with no endurance and wake up the next morning and try and run a marathon. It has to be built, or in our case, grown. But wait. I get the importance of endurance, but the passage says, count it all joy when you go through hard times. Who ever actually does that? Who is ever actually happy when things are hard? But this passage says, count it all joy. So we can't get that confused with count it all happiness. See, there's a difference between happiness and joy. Happiness doesn't last long. It's fleeting, but joy is different. It can be had for a long time, much longer than happiness. Think about our tree here. When it comes to drawing a tree, I could try and draw it super quick and be really impatient. I could finish quickly and be happy with that when I'm done. But if I actually take the time to draw it and be a little bit more patient, it will look significantly better in the long run. Or think about a real tree. When you plant a tree, it won't produce much shade. It might produce a little right away, and you might be happy with that, but think about over time, over years of growth and care, you'll end up with a large tree that gives plenty of shade to sit under. But still, how are we supposed to have joy when going through hard times? All this may seem ridiculous and impossible, but if we look at it like we look at a tree, initially, it may seem that it's impossible to survive when hard times come, much less be joyful. But at the same time, we don't see the work that is being done behind the scenes. We can't see the end picture. When things are hard, we might see the sapling and not the tree. But when you look at a tree, like the great redwood trees in California, like the ones that a car can drive through, that tree has seen storms, strong winds, but yet that tree has matured and has endured. And I believe that James is saying in the same way, our trials are hard, sometimes very hard to get through, and might seem even impossible. But we can rest assured that first, God has not abandoned us and is working in us and helping us grow, helping us to endure. And second, no matter what, God is still sovereign and in control over our situations. And though we may not see it now, we might see it in days, months, or maybe even years from now. And we can see and we can look back and see how God has grown us. Here's the thing though. This is a good truth from God, but does that make our trials easier? Well, not necessarily. Maybe for some, but not for others. Trials don't suddenly get easy. In fact, they're still going to be hard. That's the nature of what they are. They're trials because living in a sinful world is hard, very hard. And just believing this may not make trials easier, but counting it all joy, understanding that God is working and still sovereign over our situations, it does give our trials purpose. It does give us a reason to keep pushing, to keep enduring. It gives our suffering, our trials, a purpose, knowing that God is working in us to make us more like Him, and knowing that God is with us, in control, and working on us. This is a real reason to have joy, even in the middle of trials. And one more thing I want to point out before we finish. One thing that's super important when reading the Bible, or anything really, is understanding the context. In these specific verses, James is not writing to just one person, but a group of people. And so when he says, "Count it all joy, brothers, when you meet trials," this is being written to the whole church, a group of people who are undergoing trials and hardships for their faith. Even the word used in the original language for "when you encounter" is a plural verb. And so when it comes to trials, remember that you are not just a lone tree in a field. This passage isn't talking about the individual. This passage is talking in the plural. See, you're not just one tree, but when you are a part of the body of Christ, the church, you are part of a family, a group of trees, and you'll work together to withstand the winds and the storms. Now, I'm not done yet with this picture, but we're going to have to save that for another time. So, until next time.
Well, hey, thanks for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please consider subscribing to our channel and ring the bell for notifications so that when a new video comes up, you can be notified of that. We hope that this video was edifying and helpful for you in your walk with Jesus and your faith in general. So with all of that, thank you very much, and we'll see you next time.